So here we are over in the jungle and the docks, as I said. You can kind of see up here is where the bridge kind of moves over from the other area, and also on the main level down here. There's not too much here, but I did want to cover a few important things. For instance, up here, this is a weed known as nightshade, and what this does is it actually has the counter effects from the morning glory, which actually wakes up Norns. This puts them to sleep, so not exactly the greatest thing to ingest, but it's not going to harm them too badly. Right below that, this is another weed known as the ugly tomato. It actually has some helpful starch in it, so it does have some nutrition, but it lowers the sex drive of the creature that has it. So it's kind of helpful with selective breeding, although I found that it really doesn't help out that much, and it's also not really a benefit to teach creatures to eat weeds, as we'll see in a second. As we move down here, way down here at the bottom, this is the most deadly weed in Albia. This is the death cap mushroom, which is quite accurate. It's pretty deadly. It has a pretty good dose of glycotoxin in it. And what glycotoxin does is it eats away at the long-term energy store in Norns called glycogen. So the typical life force is measured by glycogen and is usually at about 75%. When somebody ingests this, that life force can plummet down to about 40%, and if they continue to do so, pretty good chance that it's going to be lethal. So fortunately, the only thing down here to do, if anybody gets down here, is to either go up the lift again or to eat it. Most of them should want to travel back up the lift and ignore it, but some just can't resist that colorful weed. So try to keep Norns away from this as much as possible. You can also see over here we're going to have a submarine bay, and the submarine should be coming in shortly. That's an underwater vehicle that will travel underneath the ocean here. Also up here is the dock for a boat, which again we should be seeing in just a second. You can see the submarine is coming in down over here. And there's our little boat up there. The nice thing about this is that vehicles actually travel on their own back and forth, but you can also interact with these and send them off if you like. So if we want the submarine to head off again, just click our little arrow and off it goes. And we'll see that in just a second. The last thing that I want to cover here real quick, we're just going to scroll up just a tad bit. You'll notice up here there's this funny looking thing coming out of the tree. This is actually the Grendel mother, and the Grendels are another species that's in Creatures 1 and actually every game in the series. They're painted to be these hideous green monsters they carry diseases, they kill things, they're really mean and nasty. In Creatures 1, this is not the case. Spend some time with one and you'll find out that they're really not that dangerous. There's actually a hard-coded script that makes these more aggressive than they should be. So for instance, when creatures interact with one another, they can choose to tickle or slap one another. With the Grendel, even if he wants to be nice to another Norn, he's actually forced to slap based on a game coding. So fortunately there is an addition to the game or a cob that can fix this, but just know that if you're starting off that Grendels really aren't that dangerous. And this will always make sure that there's one egg or one Grendel in the world. It's kind of hard to actually see the egg hatch, but if you stick around here you should see the Grendel at some point in your game. So now what we're going to do is we are actually going to travel across this great expanse of water to our next place, and that is the desert island over here. Very accurate description. It's an island and it's pretty much a desert. There's nothing that really naturally grows here. Again, I mentioned cobs, which are additions to the game. There's a few that I would highly recommend putting in over here, especially to add some food sources since there's really nothing going on. Not sure if a ball and a radio really offer that much nutrition. The only thing that's actually located here is a weed, unfortunately. I can never pronounce this one correctly. It starts with a C. I say campanula, but you know, who knows? There's no guide on how to say these things. So this one is a pretty nasty one. You really don't want anything to be eating it. If they're nearby, send them off in the lift if you can, or just try to keep them from eating the weeds. What we'll see in a second here, there's an underground cart that's going to be traveling underneath the next area of the ocean, which we can go through. There's not much to do over here, but for some reason I found that Norns and Grendels alike just love hanging out here. Not sure why. It doesn't seem too interesting, but who knows. The one area that I'm not going to talk too much about, we scroll up just a little bit, is this area up here. There's a carrot vendor. There's a teleporter which connects somewhere else. Again, these are kind of, not too many Norns actually reach it up here, so that's why I'm not going to cover it too much in depth. Pretty much all this does, though, is it automatically vends a carrot when a Norn or Grendel pushes it. So if we take a look over here, we can kind of see that there's an ocean that's starting, and there's no actual boat or ship or anything over the water. What we have to deal with is the little underground cart down here that will go underneath the ocean through the tunnel. And right now, it doesn't look like it's around, but I think we've seen it a couple times. So lastly, we are going to go to the last area, which is known as the settlement over here. If we scroll this way just a little bit, you can see here's the ocean, here's the tunnel, and there's that little cart. You can send it on its way, and it'll head back to that desert island. So here is the last area of Albia. There's a lot here. There's a little goldfish that they can interact with, a cannon, which we can send off, or who knows why. What I'm going to do is just move over a little bit in the world and just cover the very last area. There is a jukebox up here. Pretty fun, although it endlessly plays the same tune. I usually have to shut it up after a while because Norns love it, but for players, I'm not too sure. There's also a little projector screen down here which we can open up and kind of plays different pictures of Albia so that you can kind of share those with Norns. Another nice area is the music room. We can play the harp, the drum, there's a trumpet that creatures can play if they want to, and there's a little lift here that'll travel up and down and kind of take them around. Lastly, down here there's the still, which will refill these wonderful green hooch containers. There's a lot down here, and I recommend not keeping them all in one place, just because there's Norns that usually enjoy really drinking it all in one sitting. Not exactly a good idea, but they're not that intelligent. And finally over here we'll see a little shower which can be turned on and off and just kind of gives a little refreshing boost every now and then. And if we just move over just a tad bit, you should recognize there's the incubator again, the beehives. And we have traversed all around Albia. So this kind of gives you a tour of Creatures 1, the world. I think it's a really beautiful world. The one thing I really quickly here, this is a weed, not a nice one of the worst ones, and this is the tomato plant, a good source of starch. Again, this is a very beautiful world. I love this world. Creatures 1 is my favorite in the series, partly because of nostalgia, but also because I just think it's a great game to get into the series. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at it with me. I hope this has been helpful just to kind of give you an idea of what the world looks like, and the next time you play, hopefully you'll get to enjoy it without those Norns giving you too much of a hard time. Alright, well thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.